didn't see one.
Well, we call this meeting to order. It's now 7 o'clock. Would everyone please rise for the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here.
Milszewski. Here. Munch.
Here.
Swankover.
Here.
Spears. Here. And here.
Okay, we do have several presentations this evening. First one is for Ribs on the River winners. We have 3 winners for Ribs on the River. Are they here this evening? We have Chet Johansson, Richard Carter, and Tom Bezek. All 3 of them here. Come on forward, guys. First of all, you can come forward too, since this Ribs on the River was your frame set up. How you doing, guys? All right. Congratulations. So here's a nice pledge here for you guys, and I'll just read one of them off. You know what? Go over this way for the picture. But as a certificate of recognition, the Mayor and City Council of the United City of Yorkville present this certificate to Chet Johansson, Bubbles Ribs, for their second place finish at the inaugural Ribs on the River Backyard Barbecue Contest, presented this 14th day of August 2012. And I wish I could have been there. I did some good job on that. And then we have one for Richard Carter, and that is our 3rd place winner. And their grand prize winner is Tom from Bear Barbecue.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys. And I heard the festival was a big success. Everyone enjoyed the food. I got nothing but good feedback.
We want to defend our title next year.
Yeah.
We'll know what to prepare for now.
No, I heard a lot of people ran out of food pretty quick.
Yeah.
Nice. Won't happen next year. All right.
I think we went through 70 sleds for ribs.
Nice.
And we only started with what, like 20 slabs? We weren't expecting the turnout that you guys had.
So hopefully next year is bigger and better. So we definitely welcome you guys back. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
All of a sudden, is there anyone here from the Knights of Columbus tonight? Oh, here we go. Put them all under. Your name is, sir?
My name is Marty Reynolds.
Marty. And Knights of Columbus provided us with a scholarship for special recreation. And we sure do appreciate it. We'd like to exchange, give you a certificate of recognition. Mayor and City Council of the United City of Yorkville present this certificate to the Knights of Columbus, God's Divine Mercy Council, 14463. An appreciation for the contributions to the Special Recreation Fund and for the ongoing support and contributions to the Yorkville community on this 14th day of August 2012. Thank you, sir. And you have a...
And, the Knights of Columbus would like to present you with this check. Apparently, typically do this in Ohio. There's such a job. So, this is $500 for disabled children and assistance. And thank you for trusting us, letting us be a part of all this. It's right out there. Knights of Columbus.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Our prayers are all there is a note on here that says sign this before presenting it. Thank you again very much. Okay, next we do have some bid openings for the old post office. We did receive one bid package. So, Bart, you want to go ahead and open that, read it aloud, and then make sure to make copies for everyone?
Yep. And it was received today at 12:39 p.m. Interesting. Interested. Okay, it is from Three Angels Brewing out of Yorkville. I'll read the final paragraph here. We are humbled and encouraged by the citizenry, councilmen, staff, mayor, and independent businessmen that have supported us. Special thank you to Mr. Tollefson, who not only understands the challenges of building successful businesses, etc. Rather than pressure the council to a vote given the current economic climate, we have chosen to respectfully and patiently defer our desire to build at this site until a more convenient time for its corporate authorities. And they thanked us for our time, so it appears we did not actually have a bid.
Okay.
Submitted bid package for $0.
Interesting. Yes, so we can scratch the discussion under DC. City Services Survey. We have all the results have been compiled, and Jeff, our administrative assistant intern, is present those survey results to us.
These are the findings of our survey, which was conducted this past February. They sent out this and different utility bill statements, and we had about 530 responses, which isn't a significant number, but it's still enough that we can go off and see some recommendations. So this is just a brief overview of what I'm going to be going over throughout the survey analysis. So just take a moment to look over this slide. All right, delving right in, demographic information. There are some key things that you all should keep in mind as we're going over all this. One is that 50% of the responses were from ages 50 plus. That represents about 20% of our census data. So that's not very overly representative of the entire population, and that's something we keep in mind because that also skews our household numbers and some of the preferences and different items. Because as we know, somebody that is 50 is going to have a different package of preferences than somebody that's 20 or 30. Other things to keep in mind are that 75% of the responders were within their first 10 years of residence here, as well as 67% within a different western Chicago suburb. So these are other things to keep in mind because when they're comparing our city services, it's usually to something that they've recently seen or experienced, and therefore that's how they're deriving their conclusions. So getting right into the actual bulk of the information. It's hard to see up there, but this is a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the worst, that's the least satisfied, 1 being very satisfied. On the far right, you can clearly see traffic flow and street maintenance are the two highest. They receive more negative responses than positive responses. So those are things to keep in mind. Some other ones up there are property maintenance, as well as communication with the elected officials. On the opposite end of the spectrum, the ones that people felt were doing pretty well in right now are the quality of our police, our timeliness of our police response, quality of our parks, and our garbage collection. So those are things that people generally feel we're doing well on, things that we should probably keep going the same way. But as a dichotomy, on the next section we ask for comments, and people often commented that they would like to see more police. That's something that I guess has to deal with the rapid rise in population that we've seen and something to be expected. All right, so the next question we went into was, which of these 3 services do you think the City Council should focus on? They're able to select 3, and clearly major city streets, neighborhood streets, and sidewalks were the highest ones. This is a recurring issue with the whole streets, traffic flow, all that. You'll see that over and over again throughout this presentation. So these are things to keep in mind going forward when we come out with different ideas on how to spend the budget and such. Now, another thing when it came to comments on this section, I already mentioned about police, but snow removal is a little higher than we might have expected based on the last slide. That's because there were a lot of comments that the snow trucks move a little too fast throughout the subdivisions and neighborhood streets. People are upset, if they get their mailbox flipped or something by a different snow plow. And they also had issues with the snow plow not moving fast enough on major streets, so sort of that whole, oxymoronic kind of statement right there. All right, moving on. Public Works. So this was a little more specific. Once again, it's on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being negative and 1 being positive. and maintenance of major city streets, maintenance of neighborhood streets and sidewalks are all leaning toward the rainbow end of the spectrum. However, snow removal on major streets, unlisted streets, are on the higher side of it. So those are also things that we're apparently doing well, at least in these surveys. Now the next item that we sort of touched on with a few different questions is communication efforts. This is basically the ways that individuals get their information. So as you can see, Kennewick County Record, utility bill inserts, and the city newsletter for the major avenues of getting information about what's going on in City Hall. The city newsletter is no longer continued, or it's discontinued currently, and that was a significant way, coming in at about 25 to 30%. As you look at the other end of the spectrum, though, when it comes to our social media, such as Facebook, Twitter, government access, contact with elected officials are kind of on the lower end. That's something else to keep in mind when looking at this. Also, we asked for comments on this section. There were comments that some citizens were happy with different aldermen actually going out and doing small newsletters that they sent out to their constituents. And there were also comments that word of mouth was one of their primary sources of finding out what the city's doing. That could be good and it could be bad. It could be bad if some false information gets out, then that's what's being spread to all of our residents, and that could eventually lead people to having a misinterpretation of what's actually going on in city council. All right, then we started talking about development. Now, we asked them what kind of businesses they want. Actually, people lean toward retail and shopping opportunities followed by light manufacturing, so we just go hand in hand in this sense. From this, though, we were able to specifically ask each person to name businesses. There were over 900 responses which we evaluated. Of that 55.6% for retail and shopping, 1/3 of those were for one specific or various different restaurants. Another third was for different types of grocery stores, and the rest were for specialty stores, electronic store, bookstore, those various things. So this next one is called a word cloud, and this was basically a representation of those businesses. The more times a business was mentioned, the bigger it is on this. So Trader Joe's came in at the highest, Walmart the third highest, with restaurants generally being second highest. Now, this is hard to see some of the different things on there, but actually up here, no Walmart actually shows up. So few people don't want to see those. But then there are other ones like Justice Clothing Apparel, Barnes & Noble, that also come up there as well. Finally, we asked citizens to just sort of give us some improvement ideas and suggestions. Now, 20% said that they would like to see lower taxes, which is natural. That's something that you can expect. But 20% also said that they would like to see economic developments as a way to possibly lower those taxes, because they view that as a way to get tax money from the businesses and sales tax revenues. That way they can see maybe lower property taxes in the long run. The next highest was to improve the street system, which, as I said before, is a recurring theme in this, that people generally are not completely satisfied with the maintenance of streets. Then there was to beautify the downtown and riverfront areas. There were a lot of comments basically suggesting different ways to go about making our downtown a little more vibrant and different areas near the river itself a little more vibrant and enticing for people to go to. Bike trails came up, which is natural to be seen. Those were usually in favor of the bike trail. More police and fire employees. City Hall was mentioned a number of times, just basically that residents felt that there was a disconnect between the actual City Hall members and the way that they're communicating with the citizenry, whether that's actually listening to what they're saying or actually going out and trying to communicate with them. That's something that a lot of people have said that they would like to see more of. And then there were comments about the school system, which isn't necessarily something that we control, but it was still something that we felt strongly enough to mention in this survey. So some general takeaways: roads, communication, and development are the three biggest ones. One thing to keep in mind about the development issue is that a lot of those stores that we mentioned before with the word cloud basically were things that might be unique in this area. There's not a Trader Joe's found in every city in this area, and that might be something that should strongly be looked into, because that's a way to bring more business into York. Once again, remember the demographics. People tend to vote with their feet, which means that if they don't like the services, they'll move. 2/3 of the people that took this survey were recently in a neighboring community, so that's something to keep in mind, that we want to keep them satisfied or we want to lose these residents. On a positive note, we asked residents what they thought about the safety levels and if this was a good place to raise their children. That was on a scale of 1 to 5, and almost every answer was satisfactory or very satisfactory, so we're doing good in that regard. So all this data came from this source right here, and I will now open the floor to any questions from any of the aldermen.
Yeah, nice job, Jeff. Very worthwhile survey. Any questions?
I got one.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So you said that most people were 50% and older, but then most of them were like duty or,
yes.
so that kind of makes sense in other surveys. You may have done that it's like a certain older population and all kind of due to the town.
Well, I think when it comes to who responds to these surveys, generally you see an older population actually taking the time to because they don't have as much going on if they're retired or other things. So you will usually see a little bit higher on that end. Now, whether or not they were all new or who was the new people to Yorkville, I'm not positive on that.
Jeff, at one point you said that we received 500 responses overall.
530, yes.
530, and then I think in the written responses to one question, you said there are 900 responses?
Yes.
Those people gave multiple.
Yeah, you were able to give as many responses as you wanted. So some people gave, 6, 7, 8. Some didn't give any of them. And wound up equaling out to 900 for that particular question.
Any questions from the audience?
I have a question. The communication part of it, you said that they want more communication with the aldermen and with City Hall. And I'm.
Oh, sorry. When I was speaking about City Hall, I was most of the comments were directed mainly at the council,
Okay.
but some of it was also towards staff. They would like to see a little more engagement with staff.
Okay. So because you mentioned the newsletter in there, it's discontinued. Did they say that they like the newsletter?
Actually, yes. A number of the people that did have comments related to the newsletter were in favor of it, and they thought it should be brought back. Some of them were just they didn't even know there was a newsletter to begin with.
Yeah, we'd already talked about bringing it back, so that's something
I
we'll
like the
discuss
newsletter. It was
tomorrow.
good.
Any other questions from the council? Any audience questions as far as the survey? All right, thank you very much, Jeff. Next is a presentation from the Aurora Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. How you doing tonight, Chris?
Here tonight to ask you to sign an intergovernmental agreement with us for 5 years to provide your CBB services. I find myself often telling people that my office can be located in one place, but I try to get out into communities and be as active as I can otherwise. So I'm going to kind of whiz through the PowerPoint presentation so that we've got time for question and answers. The beginning of it is a sort of a little tourism 101. So you can know what it is that drives us. Obviously, we have a direct impact on certain businesses like lodging, transportation, booking. We have an indirect impact because if those businesses are doing well, then they have to turn around and do business with other people. And then we have what's called induced impact. When people are doing business, they're earning paychecks and they turn around and spend money too. So we create quite a web of spending in the community. The tourism and travel industry is really big in Illinois. In our area alone, in some of the latest data that we have from the state, we had a $120 million economic impact. They have released the 2011 numbers, but I just got those. I'll be able to share those with you later. Again, we are about jobs. We are about spending money. We are about generating taxes, actually. As you know, we're funded by transient room tax, and what we do is take that money and transfer that into generating taxes. $2.5 million as of in 2010 alone. So that's for each tourism travel dollar. It produced 2.3 cents for the tax coffers. We do touch 5 counties. That is our service area. We have 10 cities in that area. The top 5 counties for domestic travel, 2 of our counties are in that top 5, and King County actually is right at number 6. I gave you a little cheat sheet because I don't want you to strain your eyes trying to read this list of services that we offer you as part of your agreement with us. But as you look through that, and certainly you'll have time later, you'll see that we offer quite a few services. But the one that I'm really more interested in, and probably we need to do a much better job of educating, it's services that we offer to your citizens. In this fiscal year, we will launch an AACBB marketing campaign where we try to educate the public about the things that they can come to us and get from us. And it's from things right down to consultation, which we do already do with some people, with event coordinators, attractions operators, obviously your lodging, other businesses, but things like sharing databases. We have people contact us and information that they don't want to do the footwork and go find, we either already have on site, or we will go do the footwork for them and create the database of information for services they might be looking for. Again, it's quite a bit, and I gave you the sheet you can look over there. Obviously, marketing is what the most important job is we do. We're doing a lot of digital marketing now because we can target our audience a little better. Most people that are looking for travel information these days are looking for it online, so we do quite a few things. We do still do print ads, and our overarching message will continue to be come to the Aurora area, visit the Aurora area. The Aurora area is a choice destination, but one of the things that we're starting to do now is we're really starting to personalize a little more to the municipalities that are in our service area. So, for example, in some of these promotions that ran recently, we actually have very specific Yorkville things that are going on. Social media for us is actually huge, contrary to what you saw with the government contact is, again, people that are interested in travel and tourism, they actually keep up with us quite a bit on our social media activities. And some of the things that I'm posting here now are things that were very Yorkville specific. Again, we're really starting to personalize a lot of our promotions. You get the Ribs on the River awards out tonight, and for a month or so before Ribs on the River, we used your Ribs icon as our Facebook fan page icon. And we have about 6,000 fans now. So obviously we're doing Twitter. These are just examples of Yorkville specific Twitters that we're going. We have nearly 500 now. We hope to double that in this fiscal year. Some of the things that we're doing, we're on pace to do that, maybe even more actually. And of course, we want to get better. And we will be, I make that commitment to you tonight, for example. In our visitor's guide, they used to put, and as many of you don't realize, I've only been here 11 months. I am a new director. It used to be you had a paragraph. In the guide that we created this year, as you can see, you've got an actual, almost a half-page vignette. In the guide that will be coming out in 2013, you'll have an entire page dedicated to you. So we're personalizing the service that we're offering to you a lot more. We have a YouTube channel, but we are sending out bids next week for video services because we're going to do a lot more of that, not only for YouTube, but with our other social media. That is the latest thing that's happening. People have now gotten too lazy to even read. They want to just watch a 10-second video clip. So we're trying to stay on top of things like that. So what's next? Well, as I mentioned a while ago, we want to have more of a hand in your community. So some of the things that we're doing is we're working with people like event coordinators, people that have meetings come in. We're creating promotional items that we can turn around and give to your citizens that need things like this. We get the benefit of the promotion. They don't have to buy goodie bags. They get to use what we offer to them. Promotional baskets. Again, we get the benefit of the promotion. They get silent auction items. In some cases, we're actually purchasing items from businesses in your communities and using those as part of our promotions. We're going to work closely with our lodging as we always have, but we're now offering some new services to lodging. We're about to launch a new website that will have online bookings for them, which will increase their business. We will create packages, not only promote their packages, but we will create packages that will utilize your attractions and businesses that people can book online. We're going to get more into product growth. similar to some of the other services we offer. I use the zip line as an example because I've had a person in my office that wanted to consult with us about zip lines. Now, we wouldn't be the ones building the zip line, but we gathered a ton of information for him. We found zip line builders, and we're providing more services. We are relaunching our quarterly e-newsletter. If you're not signed up for it, you will be, so that you can keep up with us a little more. And we're making it a priority to get signage out on the interstate so that we can start driving people off and getting them out in our community. Increasing our awareness, well, practically everything I've talked about a while ago is about increasing our awareness, but we just started a pilot program. We're building information kiosks in the area. What you're looking at here is one that we built, again, as a pilot, as a test. We put that in the Aurora Transportation Center, and there's two benefits here. One, obviously, we need our visitors getting information, and your businesses and even some events and attractions are included in these racks. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be building these throughout the service area. We will work with you to pick a nice location here in Yorkville, or more than one if you have two high-traffic areas. And what you see there is not that bad, but we actually built that ourselves. I just got a bid from an architect to design what's going to ultimately be the kiosk, is we're going to do things, we're going to ramp up what it is that we're doing. So the kiosk we ultimately build, whether they're outdoor kiosks or indoor kiosks, will be really nice, very modern. They'll have electronics, message boards and things, so we can keep a lot of fresh information. But you have businesses that are included in the information kiosk. We haven't put another one in the Route 59, and after we entertain these bids for building them, we'll get our construction bids. We'll start working with you to pick locations in Yorkville also. I'm similar to what you just did with your survey. That's what we're going to be doing too. We know that theoretically, and we can take the state numbers that they produce every year, and we know that the work we do is very beneficial to your community and has tremendous economic impact. But we're now taking bids to do our own ROI and conversion studies. In fact, our intentions are at the end of 3 years of doing these studies, we're also going to build a branding program out of it. So I don't want to come back and constantly flash the state overall numbers. I want to come back and speak more directly to the work that we've done and the studies and surveys and things that we've taken. The work that we do needs to be data-driven. I'm a very frugal budget writer. I locked out 24 line items in the budget I inherited. As Chris will tell you, we try to operate lean. We want to direct our dollars to the places that have the greatest impact, and that's in our marketing and in our sales effort. We do have a sales department that goes out and recruits sports business and group sales also. We keep a small staff. We lost a graphic arts and a webmaster. We were able to farm it out for about half the price, and so we're moving forward in that direction. And I'm currently entertaining resumes for a marketing representative. But the engine of our organization is our board of directors. I have 25 board members. We have an active board. Alderman Funkhauser is your representative. It's quite possible you might ultimately have more representation because we've got a few seats we'd like to fill, and they're for businesses like restaurants and things like that. So you could end up having more representation as we move forward that way. That was the really me whizzing through it version, so I didn't go over Bart's 5-minute time limit. How'd I do?
He's responsible for that if you go over.
Again, I know I ran through that rather quickly, but the message that I would like to give you tonight is this. We're really ramping up our efforts to be a very modern convention and visitors bureau. Several of you I've met out in your community. It's not only something that I'm doing, but when we're hiring people to fill our positions, we are requiring them to live in our service area. It is our intention, even though our office isn't here, is for you to feel us and know that we're here because we are your CBD. So I think you're going to really like the things you see in the next 5 years, especially a lot more personalized attention that you're going to be receiving And tonight, we would like to get a recommitment from you, and you have our dedicated commitment also. Is there any questions?
We're going to be discussing this under Economic Development Committee report, so if there are any questions, you can come back up and answer any questions that we have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Do we have any citizen comments this evening? Once. All righty. We have couple sets of minutes for approval. Any of them? Okay. Everyone had a chance to look at the July 9th, 2012 Ad Hoc Committee for Recreation Facility Alternatives minutes? Any corrections on those?
Yeah, Your Honor, there were a couple comments that were attributed to me that I honestly don't remember making. I could have, but I really don't think I did. What I'd like to do is give these back to the minute taker, and if they are substantial comments, and have her review the tapes again and bring back the corrected version.
That's fine. How about Committee of the Whole? Anyone find substantial problems with Committee of the Whole?
On page 2, the second paragraph from the bottom, where it says Ashley Flynn, she did not support PET 1. It says she supports PETS 1, and she did not. And I just wanted to add on page 3, second paragraph, it was Terry Hancock. She was the Community Education Manager for Naperville Area Humane Society. And that's all I have.
Anyone else on Committee of the Whole minutes? Okay, so all in favor of...
I just said one thing.
Yes.
Under the animal ordinance, on page 3 at the bottom, when we discussed, obviously, the whole PET 1 issue, it's not clear in the minutes as to how we decided not to proceed. I want it clear in the minutes that I was in favor of looking into it and looking at that possibility. And I understand that that wasn't the winning vote. However, it doesn't really indicate in the minutes who was for it and who was against it. And I understand it's not a vote, but I did make comments stating that I was interested in looking into it, and I would like those inserted in there for future record if I wanted to look into it.
Okay, so you okay to send these corrections back to the minute taker and bring both of them back for approval next time? Sure. Is everyone okay with that? Okay, let's do that now. Moving on to Economic Development Committee report. First item is the Aurora Area Convention and Visitors Bureau agreement. Chris gave us the accelerated presentation. It was a 5-year agreement. How long have we been with the Convention Bureau? That's some time.
1990, I believe.
Right. Okay. Comments or questions on this? Feelings? Right?
Just clarification here. We impose a 3% tax, and we disperse 90% of those dollar amounts to the Bureau. What is that pretty common for other communities, percentage-wise?
The percentage is the same throughout all communities. Obviously, different communities generate different dollar amounts depending on how many hotels they have. So, and I believe there's also another revenue source that's derived in their budget from the municipal partnerships. That's not related to hotel taxes, but I don't remember what it is off the top of my head.
Well, I do have some concerns about extending the agreement, especially for 5 years. Like you said, we've been with them for over 20 years. And I understand, Chris, you're new to this, so this is nothing on you. But I feel we get no feedback. I feel we never get any return on our investment as far as empirical data that we can look at and say, okay, this is the amount of money that went out, and this is what we got for our money. I mean, I went to the enjoyaurora.com website and pretended I I was a tourist looking for something to do in the area, and it was quite difficult for me to find something to do in Yorkville on that website. And they're asking us to commit for a 5-year period for over, $200,000 to $250,000 commitment. And I'm just very gun shy on doing it, considering over the last 20 years we've gotten very little feedback from the organization as far as how our money is being used, what return of investment we have on our money. And I don't want to sign up on a 5-year agreement, and 5 years from now, they come back and say, okay, now we have some information for you. I'm just very skeptical, and I probably won't vote for a 5-year extension no matter what, to be quite honest with you. Maybe a shorter extension for a shorter period of time to take in smaller doses. But that's really the concern I'm having with this. I just don't see where we get the bang for our dollar. If somebody convinces me otherwise, I can't vote for it.
Anyone else? Mark?
Actually, I was going to echo what Carlos said about maybe the length of the contract, and it seems like, again, I'm all for promoting our tourism and things, but it seems like every time it's right before contract's up, people come in, it's a big, song and dance and tell us what they've done, but you're right, if we do this, then we should get a little shorter and get a little better updates as we go, because I never, I don't know how many years ago, they're supposed to come in every quarter, whatever, and get your report of how we're doing. So I'd definitely like to see that contract, and how many times they get through each quarter before that, what they're doing for us.
Well, I'm concerned too. From the memo, we paid $45,000 for the service every year. That's a hunk of money. I haven't seen one of these. I've been on the council, or as clerk in it. I can't tell you the last time I saw one of these. Where are these? Where are they for our people?
Where did you get that one?
This was on my desk.
That was on my desk.
But other than that, I haven't seen one, and I'm going to echo what Alderman Munn said since the last time we had a vote on it. So as a resident, I'm just talking as a resident, not even as where are these for our residents to get? Are they at banks or supermarkets that they can pick them up? Another concern I noticed on your slide, you had a thing from Midwest Living magazine. I get Midwest Living. I got a pet peeve because I just got mine. I open it up, there's waging waves. I don't know if you do it or they do it. It doesn't say one word that it's in your bill. So what are we paying $45,000 for? I just don't see the return on the amount of money either. I just like to see a little bit more for our money, I guess.
May I address some of those things?
Absolutely, Chris, come on up. No, there's no conversation.
Well, first of all, I would tell you this. I'd love to stand here and tell you that, you just don't get it, but I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. In my presentation, that's some of the things that I also brought to the table when I moved here 11 months ago. I started asking the same questions. That's why we're doing the studies. And it won't be a 5-year study. We'll actually be doing ROI and conversion studies annually. So we will be able to come back routinely and show you this information. We talk about the information not being out there. Totally agree with you. Thus, the information kiosk. Now, we do have a very lengthy distribution list, and we use a lot of distribution services for the visitors' guides. And please keep in mind, the visitors' guides are really made for visitors, not locals. But one of the benefits of doing the information kiosk in your community is that while it provides sort of a static visitor center for visitors that are moving about the area, we do like the fact that it does also offer the information to local folks. But again, I totally agree with you also. I want us to be data-driven. I want us to be able to come back and report to you things much more detailed than what you've gotten in the past. As far as the term of the contract, we need 5 years to be able to make those strides. If we do it shorter than that, most of the work we're doing right down to our branding study and things like that are going to take 3 years just to do them in the first place. So I don't know that it would be fair for us, to be judged on what happens a year from now or 3 years from now. We need 5 years to do that. That's why we ask for a 5-year commitment.
Chris, what I guess I'm concerned is we have people coming in now, doing the rapids and that. So it's not just for residents. If they were someplace where maybe they stop in Speedway and get their gas. Where are we putting these? It's not just even for residents. We are pulling some people in who may never saw this before. There are other things in this area.
Well, right now we have them in all of your lodging, but we will actually put them anywhere that anybody will let us. I mean, I can tell you that right now. We printed 75,000 of them, and we're ready to do another 25,000 reprints. So we don't turn anybody down that requests guides. At the same time, you know, we're not trying to force them on anybody either, but we don't turn anybody down. Any business in town that wants guides, bring them out, bring them a case, 105 at a time, odd number I know. But.
And we do have them at City Hall. I think this one just came out relatively recently. I know the Chamber has them, and I'm assuming the YEDC has
How many
copies
people
of
go
them.
into IEDC? How many people go into the chamber? I guess for our money, I'm just trying to get.
New
it out
residents, sure. Yeah. And
there.
that's,
New residents are fine, but, you know, say like, you know, down at the Riverfront someplace, maybe.
And I won't lie to you, my initial thought was that when we build a kiosk here, that would probably be a likely spot to put a nice one. Because of the activity that's going to go on there, not just with the rapids, but with events and things you'll be holding there. But it doesn't have to be the only one. If you have other high traffic areas, we're absolutely game for that. This is the type of things you're talking about are the very things that I'm trying to introduce, and I've got board support for.
So now the ad, going back to Midwest Living, was that ad placed to buy Raging Waves or the ads?
Our Midwest Living ad was their website.
Okay.
If you saw it in print, that was probably a Raging Waves ad. And the examples I showed you of some of the ads we started doing, they actually say Yorkville. That's kind of the point. Again, the point I'm making is it sounds like we're launching and going in a direction that you would like us to go. Jan?
I just noticed in your presentation that it said that you have grants and that available. Did I see that in there?
Right, we will help you, and we sometimes come across grant opportunities. Since I've been...
Okay, their
and so
opportunities are not through you.
No, we don't have a grant program, but we will assist people in completing grant programs because we have some familiarity with some of the grants that we have to write ourselves. So I know that since I've been here, we have actually passed that opportunity. Some of you might be on a mailing list that I created myself as I started to meet people, and so we continue to build on those lists for each of our communities. We send those opportunities out.
one of the grants I know that they had helped with under the previous director was the Bureau of Tourism grant for the acquisition of the old jail. So we had found the grant through, our own points of contact, but, when you're looking at like a 40 or 50 page grant application from the state, they had almost all the data that we needed. So again, they didn't find it, but they supplied it through most of the application materials.
Chris?
I sit on the board as the liaison for Yorkville, so I do attend their regular monthly meetings and some of the functions that they do. I have been critical of this organization due to the fact some of the comments that were made. The lack of information provided to us, the amount that it costs us, those type of things. Sitting there, looking at what they do, looking at the monthly statistics, since Chris has come on, I have seen an improvement. It's one of those that you can't truly gauge that based on the 11 months he's been there and the 8 months of him actually starting to make changes in it. So we have a 20-year history with them, and over those 20 years, there's not been a whole lot of dedication towards Yorkville itself. So when I'm saying that there's improvement, that's a very small window to compare it to for the rest of it. On the board, it's a very large board, we have a very small representation. Some of the other communities have very large representations due to the organizations that they have on the board. Individual organizations do get seats. Like you said, there are seats coming available. That could be a restaurant in the community, which those kind of things would help in terms of votes and direction. Our commitment to this is something that I think we need to consider, whether or not we want to go with a shorter term. I don't see that being an outrageous thought to go with maybe a 2-year contract or 3 years, something that's shorter. It puts the pressure on Chris a little bit to make sure that performance is there. Otherwise, the commitment is not there. They are moving forward, as I know, on different programs. There are some big things that they are working on. The rebranding, obviously, that is a big element. The transitioning more to the local side, it does have a lot of potential value to us if everything comes around, but we need to see that. And it's something to consider. Do we want to do it? Do we have the potential to take our $45,000 and get the reach that they do? I don't think we necessarily can. But it is money that still needs to be expended on tourism. So either which way, we're going to be spending that money on tourism, that $45,000 a year. So we do need to consider, do we go it alone, or do we go with an organization that has 10 other municipalities? 9 others involved in it. So it is a value of having the numbers together, but we need to be able to see a more dedicated response to Yorkville, which we're starting to see that in the past few months, but it's not something that sounds like it's garnering a whole lot of support from the other aldermen. But I just wanted to fill you in on that since I've been sitting on that board and give you that input.
And I would like to add, just as another example, because I did pass them out, but we also do news releases and work with the media, and a sample of one of our recent news releases that went out this morning is very Yorkville specific. It actually promotes the opening of your new theater downtown and the performances that are coming up with contact information. You look at the example. That's one reason why I passed it out, was just as another example of how more community specific we're getting with a lot of our promotions. As far as the dollar value, well, I will tell you this. The amount you're essentially getting $4 or $5 to the dollar you put in marketing and promotion and labor, because the 75,000 visitors guides that your businesses are listed in and your city's listed in just about ate up what your contribution was. But yet you continue to get all of the other marketing and things that and services we provide. So you've got a value. That's why we do it in the pool systems, because we can do a lot more for everybody if we're putting the money in the pool together. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I just wanted to say, I'm glad that you brought that up, Chris, because I kind of forgot about that. Because we get $51,000 in taxes from hotels, and that has to be spent on tourism. So we can't, we would have to do the promoting ourselves with that money.
I agree. I think the 5 years is a long time, considering the concerns that I'm hearing tonight. What would be, from a legal standpoint, could we ask that we be able to reopen and reconsider this, say, in 2 years? Give us some time to see if these issues are being addressed. Is that something we could work into a contract?
Yes, you'd be willing to accept the contract.
Well, my board would have to make that decision. But again, I would caution you to judge us by what happens in 2 years, because I can't.
2 years is a long time in my mind. I mean, things happen.
I've been here almost a year. It seems like it's flown by. But some of the programs that we're implementing wouldn't even be completed in 2 years. The branding study. Again, a lot of the marketing that we're doing is not going to imprint in the next 6 months. It's going to take time for us to, again, to have that impact. But any request that you make tonight, I can get back to the board.
I want to add to this, though, that we're not new to this. I mean, we've been doing this for 20 years, so some of these concerns are based on 20 years of history. So I think 2 years is plenty of time to address some of our concerns and assure us we're heading in the right direction here. That's what I would support.
And also, we're not the only municipality bringing this up in terms of the term consideration or the opt-out that was in the agreement being removed for a firmer commitment. The new proposal we have, the opt-out at 3 years has been removed.
I didn't have anything to do with those. This was the board. The attorney gave me to present.
And so there are other communities that are kind of at the same point we are that are discussing this to an extent as to whether or not we do that. But just bear in mind, we can always ask for a shorter term, which I don't have a problem asking for a 2-year term. Keep in mind, the majority of the board is represented elsewhere. There's a very large percentage representing of rural.
There's 2 concerns that I have. As Chris mentioned, Yorkville, I think, is contributing the most as far as
I think-
taxes or,
Not the most. Aurora has
okay.
probably the highest contribution. And then we are up there. We are a very heavy contributor compared to someone else.
And we only have one person representing on the board, correct? Currently, okay. And also, I don't think I could support anything more than a 2-year contract if I even support that. And within 2 years, I think we should know if Yorkville is benefiting or not. And I do understand that you've done a great job so far since you've been there in 11 months. So it would put a lot of pressure on you, I'm sure, to try to accomplish what we're looking for within the 2-year period. But I think if we go 5, extending that contract at this time, it doesn't seem worth it to me.
2 things. Is there a way we could get a breakdown of what each community contributes into this, like in a ranking? You know, is it like Aurora's first, we're second?
Well,
Is there a way, do they have a breakdown of how much does everybody contribute?
not really,
to it?
because some of our communities only have one lodging establishment. If I showed you the dollar figures, I'd be sharing some proprietary information.
Is there just, can we just rank it without any dollar amount? What order they're in?
I will tell you that Aurora, of course, carries the bulk of it, and then Yorkville and Sandwich would be relatively close, and then North Aurora would fall in there. We have some of our municipalities, Plano just started a bed and breakfast, Big Rock has a bed and breakfast, they make contributions, but not significant dollar contributions. Did that help any?
Yeah, so we're up for the top of it.
I had asked that question for a breakdown, and the only way we could really do that is if we FOIA each individual municipality for their contributions, what their budgeting numbers are. That'd be the only way that we could get that breakdown. But they're a private entity, it's a public-private partnership. They have no obligation to release that information.
Yes, sir.
Just to follow up, so how did, Chris, you might know this, so how did all these other towns get so many other representatives on board? And we only have one. We've kind of been through this before with some other agreements where we end up short end of the stick all the time. We're putting more money, and other people control the board, and you kind of take what you give us. So how many representatives does Aurora have?
Well, first of all, let me say this. Yorkville has one representative. Kendall County has a representative. Kendall County Forest Preserve has a representative. And then each of the municipalities, of course, including each of the municipalities has a representative. The other representatives are made up of Chamber of Commerce, Paramount Theater has a seat on the board. Actually, I'll be honest with you, I can't sit here and name them all for you now. To answer your question, I wasn't around when they wrote those bylaws, so, and quite frankly, we are rewriting the bylaws so that we can, that's one of the biggest topics of rewriting the bylaws, is restructuring that representation. Again, you might have one now, but I can't say in the future that you're not going to have more, simply because we top out at 30, so we have 5 more seats to fill, and we're looking to fill those seats.
How many does Sandwich, Plano, Big Rock?
Sandwich has 2, because they have lodging, they have a hotel representative, and they have their municipality representative. What was the other example?
Big Rock?
Big Rock has 1.
You said they just started even having anything to generate revenue.
Well, they should have been generating revenue all along. I actually thought that. I'm doing a lot of cleanup. Again, I'm sensitive to the things that you're concerned about. I guess
that's my point. It's like, okay, if we're paying the second highest amount, we have the same voting, privilege weight as somebody that shoots virtually nothing to it. And then how did the county and the Forest Preserve get that? They don't have hotels out in Forest Preserve.
Yeah, again,
Or the Forest Preserve representative is a county board member. I think we just count that as 2 county board members.
Right, but how do they even get hired in a
They don't generate any
They
revenue.
don't even have a building. something that generates revenue.
Some of their representations are based on uses. It's like they have one for the hoteliers. So they have representation, they're not a municipality, but they're involved. You have the Paramount Theater has one. They're one of the theaters. Since they're generating that revenue, they're part of the purpose of the Aurora area. It's an attraction. The forest preserves are.
We do have seats for
I would see
attractions.
Yeah, and so they're attraction seats. That's how they garner their seat. And so you can see how it works. And some of them are appointed, so these seats are not necessarily like ours is, where it's a municipal seat.
And I wish that I could answer your question more clearly. I wasn't here when those bylaws were written, but I'm here now, and we're rewriting the bylaws. In fact, we spent a couple of months on it already, and that is one of the bigger issues.
So that you're voting members have to vote on it, so obviously you're not going to vote themselves out. Right?
No, we're actually, well, again, we're wanting to increase representation appropriately, not eliminate it.
There's 10 municipalities involved, but there are 30 votes. Therefore, you have 20 seats that are out there that are not representing the municipalities.
We've had problems, things like that before, where we got this kind of tail wags the dog, where people are putting money in, should be getting more of the money spent on them, don't get it. But anyway, the one thing I agree on is economy of scale, Vanderbilt, and all these towns, I really don't see I can go for 5 years unless it's a 5-year, and now after 2.5 or whatever it is, or 3-year contract, a little shorter, so we can kind of see some of these changes take place. If you're working at the board, restructuring, it's not going to take you 2 years to get that done. That would be a sign that, okay, maybe it's going to change, we'll get a little more of a bang for the buck.
I will. They're walking that way.
Hi, Chris. I know you've only been on the job 11 months, and I think I've seen some real good changes in that 11 months. I think you're doing a good job promoting Yorkville a little bit more. I think the CVB provides a very good service. I think it's a necessary service. I don't envy your position. There's tough times we come asking for a 5-year contract at $45,000 a year. I just question the council. I mean, for that amount of money, can we do it better ourselves? Can we do it better internally? Maybe we can. And to that end, I've been approached by a local media and marketing firm right here in Yorkville that feels that they can do a better job for us. That's their line of work, is promoting cities. They think our city is very underrepresented by the Aurora area convention visitors bureau. So I'm going to meet with them next week, and I'll bring something forward. They may come in and do a proposal before we make a decision. But I think you need to go back to your board. 5 years, I don't think, is going to happen at all, from what I hear from the council. Jackie?
You know, Oswego was in this and dropped out, what, 5 years ago or so?
Quite a while ago.
Do we know what they're doing? What do they do with their money?
I don't know.
Is there a way to find out what
They
did
have
it-
a couple of young ladies that work out of City Hall.
They have their own people. And can we call and see, is that working for them? I'm just curious, because I remember when they were the first to pull out.
I would just ask that if you're going to do that, don't just call City Hall, but call the hotels and
Right.
tourism-related businesses and get their answer.
Well, I mean, for a staff, I'm looking at a staff point of view too. If we don't use you, that means we have to have some kind of staff or something to do it. So I'm just
And
curious.
please keep in mind that the services we provide aren't just marketing and promotion, even though that's a big part of it, but we do also have a sales rep who is out recruiting business, to hand deliver business in some cases. So that is a huge part of what we do also.
Joe?
Well, the question I have is from a budgetary standpoint, when we bring in this money, I understand it's dedicated to tourism. If we don't use the money in that fiscal year, can we set up, if we don't go with them, can we set up a tourism fund where the money goes into? So we might not necessarily spend $45,000 the first year. Maybe we spend 10 because we're just trying to figure out what we're going to do. But the next year, that money is rolled over into a tourism fund where that money keeps being earmarked, kind of like our emergency sirens, or, there's a fund specifically for that. And then when we decide what we want to do, whether it's go with them or go on our own or whatever, we might have 1, 2, 3 years of that money built up. So the question is, can we do that? Can we roll it over year to year, or are we required to spend the money in that fiscal year? I think that makes a difference.
No idea.
I don't know the answer. I'd have to research it.
I do. You
That's
can roll it
nuanced
over.
to me, and I'm very familiar with the commitment by law of 90% for tourism, but no one's ever posed that question, so we'll have to check it out.
I'm assuming that it
You
was
can roll it
over. Why
over.
wouldn't
Chris
it?
says you can roll it
Because
over.
the statute says it shall be expended on tourism, and the definition of tourism being heads and beds, I'm paraphrasing, of course. So that, but I've never heard of
You can have carryover. Yes.
Okay, well, I think that's enough discussion for tonight. We'll revisit this again in 2 weeks.
Okay, to be clear, because I actually have a board meeting next week, are you asking me to ask my board if they would entertain a 2-year contract or something contrary to what's on the table tonight?
Yeah, or the 3-year out clause like we used to have. I think that's the only way I see it having a chance. Everyone's agreeable with that?
Well, to be quite honest, I'm not agreeable to saying yes if they give us a 2-year, we're in. Especially if you're saying there's another party that wants to make a proposal, I'm all for listening to proposals. So I don't want to commit to anything until I hear what everybody has to say. Am I more likely to vote for a 2-year than a 5-year? Absolutely. But am I saying you give us a 2-year, you have my vote? No, I'm not. Especially if there's somebody else out there who wants to present to the council, I want to hear what they have to say.
Yeah, so honestly, Chris, I don't see us voting on this in 2 weeks. I think we're going to be discussing this some more, and we'll hear other proposals and get back to you.
Were we going to move forward to city council or just table it?
We could bring it to city council next week, table it from there and have further discussion, and then have to discuss it at length like we are tonight, but we'll move it forward.
So you're going to have more information about the other proposal?
Yes, by next council meeting. I'm meeting with them next week.
I noticed these are all dated effective December 15th. Now, it means we've got some time on this, right?
That's correct.
You don't have to be the first one to sign off.
I'm a little early because I've got 10 cities. and most of them are on Mondays and Tuesdays, so I have to start early. Well, thank you for your time, and I gave you my business cards. Please, by all means, when you've had time to sleep on this and digest it a bit, give me a call, stop by. I'll answer any questions you might have after tonight.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Thank you.
Okay, Swanson Lane Estates. All the information's in the packet. They're just looking to vacate their plats, their final plats, and 3 letters of credit. Any questions on it? Pretty straightforward. Yes, ma'am.
I did have a couple. And they said that we don't need a public hearing. It was in the memo that a public hearing is not necessary. But we did have problems with that area, and the people apparently that were across the road were flooding. And I know our former city engineer was looking into it. So I would really like to have the people that are living across the way to
We're talking about Swan
no,
Lanes or
we're not.
Timberwood?
No, I'm sorry. I'm ahead of myself there. Yes, I am so sorry. Yeah, not this one.
Okay.
When we vacate it, does that mean that any of the papers that were involved don't have to happen there?
Correct. Correct. Nothing happened. So it's as is. It's just releasing his entitlement, which means you would have an opportunity to start from scratch with a new developer for whatever was better pertained to surrounding
Sort of like
properties.
what we did.
So basically, do-over.
So just for clarification, just so everybody knows we're on the same page, for Swanson Lake, it's a little different than Cumberland, but for Swanson Lake, there's nothing there. There's a letter of credit that's useless because nothing is there. If we release the letter of credit, it costs the city nothing. If we release this plat of survey and make it clean land once again, it makes it more viable for developers to then come in and maybe want to develop because they're not hindered by the plat that's currently recorded. So So it's an advantage to the city to hopefully promote the sale of this property and the development of this property in the future. Any future development will have to be approved by us no matter what.
Exactly.
You got my vote.
Any other comments, questions? Yes, sir.
The only thing that this will retain is the annexation and the zone.
Correct, it's already.
Otherwise,
in the
it's a
zone.
clean slate.
It's a clean slate.
It's a do-over on anything that anybody wants to do on this property.
And the
which
agreement,
It was set to expire in 3 years.
Okay, we move that to consent agenda? In 2 weeks, okay. Next is an existing home sales incentive program. After our last meeting, we extended the build program, it was brought up what can we do for some of these foreclosed homes or existing homes. And like I said 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, last meeting, very difficult proposal to do anything for existing homes. But Jeff was on it, and we went out and looked at some other areas of the country actually that are doing some loan programs and things like that. I don't know what's really feasible for us, but there's some information in there for you. Comments or questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm really think the city should be able to bank this, loan the money out, and all for lower some fees and kind of bill part would be nice to loan money out into the bank for collections and all that stuff. I don't know if the city can visit for that, but certainly up for any kind of fee reductions that would help for these remodeling credits and things remodeling an existing home. Maybe more stable.
Even the remodeling credits, I mean, I don't think that's going to do anything to spur, anything. I don't know. Chris?
Yeah, the proposal, I think, for the community that did this, put together a pretty good package, but it did require some capital from the community, and that's something we don't have to do on this one. We can't put out a loan which potentially turns into a grant. That's the one of the structures that was in there. Reducing the fees, I don't see any issue with those kind of things, but I don't see that doing a whole lot. There's a lot of information here. It's a pretty complicated program that's been implemented, and whether or not it's truly functional or not, that is one option, but I don't necessarily see that this would work for us unless staff thinks otherwise.
I would say the one thing about the loan and grant, you're entitled by state statute to do almost whatever you want for economic development nowadays. So,
As of July 15, 2011.
right. So, I mean, you could take the grant loan program from Covington, Kentucky, and put any standards on it, any terms on it you want, in our opinion. You could make it $500 or $1,000, and, you could make it based on income. You can make it forgivable over a 2-year period instead of a 20-year period. So, if you were in favor of it, we'd have to budget for it, and then we'd have to come up with terms. So really, we were just looking to gauge everybody's feelings on whether you were in favor of it, and then if you were, then we'd go forward and draft some terms.
Now, what are about the Covington situation? They're not using their own cash.
No, it's HUD grants, community development block grants, which are available in the Chicagoland area, but not available to us. So there's no cash outlay by the city, so no risk, essentially.
I don't know what type of area it is, but, I mean, we have very lighted areas, high crime areas, things like that, I mean, it sounds like they're really trying to attract people to a certain area, where I think it's kind of comparing apples and oranges to Yorkville. All right, well, I got the response I expected. Let's move on. Next is Kendallwood Estates Development Agreement Amendment. And I think Alderman Spears has something to say about it.
Yes, I do. Thank you. I have the right one now. As I explained, there was flooding of properties that were located on the north side of Van Emmon. And I don't know if that has been taken care of where that stands right now, and it was a while ago. And I would like to suggest that the property owners once again be notified what is being proposed here.
Regarding notice, we can do that. The study was performed, I believe, in 2010 and 11. It was presented to Public Works Committee soon thereafter. I believe the gist of the study was that both of the homes that were complaining were in floodplains. or in the floodway even, to a certain extent. So our own study showed that it wasn't necessarily anything that Kendallwood had done, although there were some erosion and stormwater issues on the site, that those weren't necessarily causing the issues that the residents had seen. So do we have to send out notices as part of the annexation agreement process?
No, this is not an annexation agreement. This is a development agreement. There was a development agreement put in place in 2009, I believe, and this is what we would be amending. The only amendment would be that nothing would be done, we would just release portions of levies and levies.
So we could send notices to the property owners, or at least call them if that's the wishes of the city.
I would like that, I don't know.
I think notice is not required, doesn't mean we can't do it. Especially if we're doing something that affects them, I think they had notice when we did it, I think we should have notice when we undo it, just so they can get their input. So one of the things of the survey was communication. Let's communicate.
I don't mean. How many residents are across from there?
We'd have to go back and take a look at the map, but less than a dozen.
Right. And are you saying just use the same notification process of 500 feet of the property lines, or just immediately adjacent property?
I think we've got a pretty good record of who was at the meetings. That was,
I would say whatever notice we had to use to get it, we use the same notice procedure for this amendment.
Now, was this scheduled to come back in 2 weeks?
Yeah, it's automatically scheduled for discussion in 2 weeks. So we can notify them, and then it can be tabled or put on for first reading, or other options that you will.
Okay. So that's what we'll do, then. Bring it back and make notifications. Now, downtown Brownfield Phase 3 study. Looks like we completed phases 1 and 2 some years ago, and phase 3 kind of fell by the wayside.
Yeah, this one has a bit of a long history. I couldn't even find the phase 1 study. It was done so long ago, probably more than a decade ago, on the FS, Farm Bureau, and City Hall parking lot properties. We did have the phase 2. We'll put the executive summary in your packet. Basically, at the end of phase 2, we determined there were some issues environmentally on the site that needed to be either cleaned up or studied further in order for no further remediation letter to be issued on all 3 properties. And at the time, just with the economic climate that it was, we were talking to each of the individual property owners about proceeding, and that just fell through. So we have a new property owner on one of the sites who's interested in getting the property cleaned up, and he had asked us to consider, obviously, a phase 3 study so that we can get not only our city parking lot property cleaned up, but the 2 surrounding properties. So Kathy can probably comment on the normalcy of environmental cleanups in TIF districts, but environmental cleanups, in my experience, are pretty widely used in TIF districts. It's eligible, and it's something that really a municipality is expected to step in on and take the lead on in order to get properties to be marketable.
As everyone can see, downtown redevelopment is going very quickly. We have TIF funds to do this. I think we should move forward with it. Any comments? Yes, sir.
Well, my only question is, if it's 3 separate property owners, I mean, I just have some reservation. I've gotten emails and phone calls on this, and actually people have spoken to me face-to-face as far as why the city, technically, and I understand it's different, but why the city is flipping the bill for the phase 3. And that's the perception that's out there. If we're using TIF funds, the city's in essence paying for the phase 3, and there's 2 other property owners that are getting the benefit of the TIF of the phase 3, but are not contributing to the actual test or whatever you call testing.
I guess my answer is because we wanted to develop. You know, I mean, how many years have been sitting? These 2 other property owners haven't done anything with it. And, if we want the stuff done, we got to take the lead on it, or we're going to sit there longer, I think.
Or is it 30,000?
Right.
Right around there.
Is to, exactly as the mayor said, when it comes to reduce development. So you spend money to reduce development. It's really no different than spending money to market. Someone always been the marketing company, and that's what you have here.
And we didn't include the individual proposals in the packet because I think we got them as packets were going out on Thursday. So I know Brad is going to be reviewing them to make a recommendation on 2 specific proposals, and then obviously Kathy still has to review it to make sure that it's legally sound. So there's still a fair bit of work that we have to do before we can find something to you. So again, it's another issue that we'll have the materials ready for the packet along with a recommendation for you next time, and it'll be on the agenda, and you can table it or vote on it if you will.
Yeah, I'd like to get this done as well. I just want to make sure now. We can cover the entire city cost out of TIF funds.
Yeah.
There's not an issue there.
Yes, sir. Called site
Anything else? Okay, we'll see this in a couple of weeks.
Not on consent, right? It'll be on the regular agenda.
Yeah, regular agenda, yeah, and I don't even know if we'll be ready to approve it in 2 weeks.
Right. We'll probably do a mini presentation if it's okay with everybody on, what the agreement is actually, or what the study is actually going to produce.
Okay, we put chickens on our agenda.
Not just chickens, urban chickens.
Actually, I think that would be, I would be the guilty party on the urban chickens. And I didn't put it on there because I'm for or against urban chickens. I put it on there because I had been asked about urban chickens. But I wanted to bring this very important issue to the forefront. We kid around, but some communities have been doing it. Some people have asked me whether they can have chickens in chicken coops and farm fresh eggs every morning for their breakfast. And the way I interpreted the city ordinance as it sits right now, the answer is no. So I thought I'd bring it to the council to see if anybody was interested in an urban chicken.
Many communities are moving in that direction.
Some community, yeah.
Taking it in neighborhood. Yes, sir.
Do you have a problem down there now with people with chickens? Because I haven't seen any there, but I can just imagine if neighbors on both sides and behind you had chickens cackling out there all hours of the day or night. And
I understand.
Northville's not rural. As rural as it was anymore. And I don't think individual houses have farm animals on them.
There are probably half a dozen to a dozen houses in Yorkville that we've gotten calls on each summer for the past few years, and people have them as pets, which is allowable under the current ordinance, which is another policy decision for you. Chickens and ducks appear to be the hot topic.
And it started because Rural King moved into Plano, and kids go with their parents to Rural King to go shopping, and there's big buckets of little baby chickens and little baby ducks, and Mommy, Daddy, I want to buy one, and I think there's a minimum of 6, or whatever it is, and people are buying them, and we got chickens and ducks running around nowadays. So it's becoming an issue. I've gotten a call, somebody was complaining, saying that they thought it was a rooster. We had to send our inspector out to see if the rooster was, we joke, but people are complaining. It's a legitimate issue. Now that they're selling them, people are buying them for their kids, and don't realize that little baby chickens and baby ducks grow up to be big chickens and big ducks.
Chickens can make noise too, and they're a rooster
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so I guess we're looking for direction on this thing. Right now you can have them as pets. So if they're running around in someone's backyard, they're all those pets. What are they not going to do about it?
That's one question. What if say your dog was down and lunches down one? What's the liability?
I guess the same as your dog eating another
What's a
dog.
bucket of chicken cost nowadays?
I'm saying no urban chicks, chickens out with urban that maybe Chicago should understand the rule much more. Yeah, how they would affect other neighbors, because I can imagine calls every day and everybody started having chickens all over.
All right, since Marty went first, we'll go around this way. Larry, what do you think about urban chickens?
I've always felt that farm animals belong on farms, personally. No matter how much you regulate them, there's still going to be issues, and God knows our staff has enough other things to keep them occupied, so I'm not for it.
Diane?
Just a quick question. Did you say that under the current ordinance that they're allowed to have them as pets?
As pets. The minute you are raising them for their meat or eggs, they are legal.
Well, yeah.
And that's one option, we can always change that too.
Yeah, get rid of them. I don't think we need to have
Jackie?
No.
Chris?
I don't see us necessarily needing them. If it came to us doing it, they'd have to be regulated very, very tightly, but generally no.
Carolyn, I know your stance.
Oh, no, I was on the fence because I really didn't care one way or the other, but then I read an article that was sent to us by staff that said that each chicken produces 45 pounds of waste per year, which kind of pushed me over the fence to, I don't think we need that in our residential area.
And you will be single-handedly responsible for bringing bubonic plague to Yorkville.
I bring it up if the resident inquires. So no.
And Ms. Spears?
Well, I just want to say, it's an Italian custom. When we buy a new house, I know Grandma gave us a chicken, and we had no idea what to do with it, and I think Grandpa took care of it. But I still, customer or not, vote against this.
Okay. Next thing is, what about chickens as pets? Do we want to do away with them altogether?
How do you determine if it's a pet?
Yeah, I know, that was my kind of like question.
Like it's a pet because it's got a leash or something?
If it is a cow or it's a pet.
Is it a pet because they keep the chicken in the house?
It'd be visual inspection is how we would determine. If they're only outdoor, that might warrant further inspection. But I think maybe half of the ones that we've inspected so far, they're actually indoor pets.
I have the chickens in the house.
Who inspects them, Bart?
Beef, Christie. The police sometimes.
And not to open Pandora's box here, but aren't pot-bellied pigs allowable too?
Yes.
That's the problem. I mean, if we're going to look at it, we need to look at the whole spectrum of.
Yeah, but pot-bellied pigs can be like a dog.
Yes. My wise attorney just whispered in my ear and said, why don't we just leave it alone until it becomes a problem? Okay.
But then, the point I had to it, if we let like a third of the population buy chicken for pets, and then we decide to probably change the ordinance, all those people, we got to get rid of their pets.
So chicken buyback program. And the chickens, all right, so just let this ride now. Okay.
I agree.
Yes, we will keep everything as is. Old post office property, obviously we have no bids on it. Still want to discuss anything about it? Yeah, so we'll wait for rain as is. Okay, moving on to Public Safety Committee. Disposal of property, chief submitted a large list of city property, police, outdated police equipment, old equipment, all sewer stuff he wants to get rid of.
Do you have anything left?
Any chicken coops?
Gotta come look at our maintenance fee out there, it's all right on the street. But we had a massive, I would call it a 20-year fee.
Anything good?
Most of it's obsolete, you see, that's the problem.
Like trailers or anything?
No, don't think there was anything that cages for old squad cars, or for prisoners, and old light bars, you might get some or something like that. But there's some old computers and computer bases, stuff like that. It's hard to say. Old videos that won't convert to the narrow gauge and that's January 1st. But we literally, we had an intern and our cadet and the deputy chiefs, and I spent a couple of days cleaning out our storage unit. We're amazed like most people have stuff in over the years.
Now, as far as computers, chief, do we need to remove hard drives or swipe hard drives or?
If we dispose of them, we will. Public Works has used several of them that we've had. Some of their stuff, but if they actually go outhouse, they will.
And we still don't really know how we're going to dispose of it, auction or?
Correct. We're just going to try to be as creative as we can. We'll reach out to several local auctioneers, look at some, every once in a while you see advertisements in this magazine about buying old stuff. We'll look around and try to get the best price we can. get worse comes to worse, some of that stuff is probably nose wrapped.
Maybe auction that people always, send it.
I think we'll do okay on it. Right now, we have storage in the outdoor goals, you know, maybe
But with it being public property, I mean, we should advertise it well and give as many people as possible the option to bid on it.
we'll follow the currency policies, so we get more people.
Okay, anyone have any questions or problems? Get rid of gold
Any restrictions of us bidding? Employees of the city?
Well, I would imagine there is. There should be if there isn't.
I don't recall what the exact regulations are.
Even at an auction where it's open and there's
Usually, if we're going to bid out, we get 3 bids, and there's just a process.
Yeah, we we're going to do like an individual bid.
I need the actual bid.
I mean, if it's closed.
Close is a problem, I guess if it were a public auction, you would bid, you could be outbid, and it was in front of everyone who's participating, it could be an exception to the rule.
Like our billet
You thinking of impersonating an officer, Mr. Muntz?
No, wait.
Okay, so we need an official vote on this. This has come back in 2 weeks.
In order to dispose of anything over original value of $500, we need capital authorization. So we just don't know quite how we're going to dispose of it.
All righty, we'll see that again. Golf carts and subdivisions.
On this one, this is actually a request from a subdivision in my ward, and I know that several members of the subdivision want to speak on it. And I got a call today saying that they weren't able to gather up the group to come and talk about it. So they just asked if I would be able to pull it from the agenda and put it on the public statements agenda for the next committee meeting. So I would ask, without the objections, to talk about we can do that.
I don't see a problem. Anyone have a problem with that?
Thank you.
Lightning detectors for city parks. Looks like we got some decent bids on this. We're looking at 3 different locations. Yeah, give us a Cliff Notes version.
I actually contacted any other company that I could find. There's actually only 7 in the nation that deal with lightning detection systems. A lot of them do not deal with municipalities, or they deal with a detection system in that it detects lightning if it's 40 miles away through a national weather system, but not necessarily prediction. And prediction is even the wrong, not necessarily the right word. It's if the conditions are right. So instead of it being based on a system with lightning, 30 miles out, they're saying that the atmosphere conditions are right. So that's Thorgard, and that's the one company that actually is also the least expensive. The other company that I received an actual number from was the Viasala, and theirs was between $70,000 to $120,000 for one park. So Thorgard for Raintree, Bridge Park, and then a remote detector at Bristol Bay, as well as upgraded this system was $38,860. So that's our recommendation. The police, think that it's a good system. It's who they recommended. So if you have any questions, I can try and answer them.
Questions? Jason?
Thorgard is that who we already have?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else?
How much is budgeted right now?
There's $52,000 in the fund right now. That additional funds that are left can be used if we need to purchase or work with the school district. We still haven't heard from them as to what they would like to do, but they did mention that they would like to help fund some lightning detectors at their schools. So we still have a little bit of room.
Yeah, just to be clear, we didn't actually budget for the expense in the police capital fund. We have $52,000 available, basically the fund balance reserved in that fund. Those are impact fees that we've collected, and we can only use on that purpose. So, by authorizing it, you're basically just saying we want to spend down that individual savings account for that purpose.
That's what it's designated for.
It is, and it has to be used within a certain amount of years, otherwise we can get it taken away from us.
That's the same fund as the tornado side.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd like to see us moving ahead as quickly as possible.
I agree.
we've already experienced delays recently getting some of our sirens up, and the sooner we move, the sooner they get up, so.
Okay. I'm going to make them on consent too, Bert. Award of Aug142012 maintenance program. Looks like our bids came back very favorable. About $20,000 less than our engineering estimate.
Which is a good thing. I think we may possibly to be able to do more because we already have the MFT fund for doing
Comments or questions on this one? Okay, we'll imagine that can go on consent also. Appointment of Jeff for FOIA officer. He's already had the training. That gives us another backup for FOIA officer. Good experience for Jeff. Any comments, questions? Consent. Kimball County 911 referendum. I had a call from Village President LeClaire about this. The Oswego Village Board asked the county board to hold off on the 911 referendum in light of the fact that there's a referendum on there to reduce property taxes. And there's going to be a new county board in just a few months. You know, they thought it was kind of silly to be asking to raise taxes on this next ballot. So they sent a letter to the county board. The county administrator, Mr. Wilkins, asked where Yorkville stood on it. And I said, I will let them know. So if you guys are in agreement with Oswego that we should wait on this, I will send this letter. If not, we'll just let it ride. Any comments or questions? Yes.
I think we should go ahead and send the letter.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of a moot point. I think whether you put it on this election or April's election, no referendum to raise taxes is going to pass in this county, so put it on whenever you want. I think it's going to fail.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and send the letter then. Thank you. Land cash recommendation, we did have an appraisal. Did come back quite low. We have several different options here with this land cash recommendation. Comments or questions? We can adopt a revised land cash valuation. It came in at $30,000. Our current land cash is at $101,000. We can reduce it to anywhere we see fit between that number. We can do nothing and take it on an individual case-by-case basis as people come to us. Which, when anyone wants reduction, it brings them to the table.
If we do it that way, the developer would then be on the hook for the appraisal. They'd have to come to us with the appraisal. I mean, the burden's basically on them. So we can negotiate at the table with each individual developer.
Even the burden of the study would be a negotiating point. We could say, sure, we're willing to give you this $30,000 number because we've already done the study, but in return, we want whatever we ask for. So you can tell them to do their own study, or they could use ours.
It's also a very fluid time with land value, so to change it could create issues.
Well, the biggest thing that caught my ear was when the park board was talking about it and how it's going to affect the current annexation agreements. You know, because we have future parks and annexation agreements that are yet to be built. So I don't know how that would affect that.
But the provision has already been made for the amount of land that has to be contributed for a dollar amount in most of those.
They're all over the place. Some of them are locked in. Some of them are locked in at higher rates. Some of them have most favored nations clauses that would allow it to automatically go down. So.
Well, I know I was reading that too, and I was wondering, do we have any idea how many annexation agreements that we have where we still have to build parks?
There's a chart in the back of the package material that I provided that shows, I think in the memo there were like 7 that's still needed.
7 grants, correct?
There are 12 developments that have an expired fee lock that have not yet started any part of development on the property. 4 that have increased to the current land cash value, but only have 21 lots remaining between those 4 developments that are mostly developed. And 7 developments have fee locks that would not be affected by any change in land cash.
So to take Grand Reserve, for instance, they had agreed to a dollar amount that was based on $58,000 per acre land cash contribution. So they've got an expired fee lock, and they've got 6 or 7 parks in there that still have to be built. So,
Well, would we have to open up their annexation agreements to renegotiate everything?
we could, yes.
Can't we talk about them building parks?
Yeah, that was one of the points of bringing them potentially back to the table, is we said we've done the study, we're willing to negotiate for a lower fee, perhaps, but you need to come to the table, we need results of these negotiations.
We've gotten so much good press lately with the build program and some of the development that's going on. I think the building community knows that we're a reasonable group to work with. I think we can leave this as is for now and take it on a case-by-case basis.
This is one thing in the EDC wanted us to look at. If we could reduce it, it is a significant drop. If we don't do something now, it is still something I want us to consider. The numbers are truly off the charts with not necessarily Yorkville, but other communities. They are really out there. And the $30,000, that appraisal, just, if we went with that, that sets everything way too low for what we need. There needs to be a point in the middle where, or maybe not even in the middle, but on that upper side, not quite to the top, that we need to come to at some point. But we are moving forward with new development now, so that's a good thing. But this is something I want us to keep on our radar to still address. It's good that we have the research done, but I think in the next couple of years, we need to come back and address this.
And just to clarify, so if we leave it the way it is, I mean, in essence, that gives us even more negotiating power when a developer comes in. If we do have that leverage to reduce that amount, but hopefully get something in return for giving that concession. So, and I think Mayor is right. I think we are sending the message out that this council is conducive to working with people. We're open to listening to ideas and improving that. So, I agree.
Yeah, I would go with the park board's recommendation and leave it the way it is right now.
Yeah, I can see, but agree with Chris, like, we can let this go for a little while, but it's been ultimately very unfair the last 5 years at around 1,000. It's like crazy high, 30,000 is like crazy low. So I was thinking something in the middle there, but, I think the rest of the city just kind of see what happens in the next few developments. But we still have the option of using, after we go to our 30, but we won't have to do another appraisal, let's say in a year or 6 months we want to revisit it.
I don't think we'd have to do another appraisal.
It's totally your call. You may want to do another appraisal because 30,000 seems like that was the lowest of the low of the low.
I don't think anybody, even if we go to, we wanted tonight, we go to 30, we might want to 50, 60, so we wouldn't have to really spend more money to do another appraisal.
Okay. Keep it as is and revisit it again sometime in the not too distant future. Alrighty then. Bunch of items here recommended for consent agenda. Is there any on here that anyone wants to talk about or look at, or is there anything, speak up now? All the information for all of them are in the packet. Okay, hearing nothing, all these will be on consent agenda in 2 weeks. I did want to have an executive session this evening for the purchase or lease of real estate, and that's it.
Yes.
Okay, so one item in executive session. I usually we could take care of additional business before we go into executive session. Anyone have any additional business?
Yes, sir. Mark, I asked about the little lot that between EP and Moose over there. Didn't they say they were going to fix that weeks ago?
We did go out and do an inspection. I don't recall what the response was.
Yeah, they did say they were going to repair it. They had called me and said that because of the depth of the pothole, there's actually damage to the initial layer of pavement, so they couldn't just patch it or pop right up there. Actually, they're kind of getting prices on redoing that whole section. So they're still getting prices in, they have to vote on it and whatnot. Similar to the way the city handles bills and stuff like that. The one person they just make an expenditure of $10,000, they have to approve it.
So obviously it's needed there, because I try not even to go in and out that way, because it's like you got to go around and real slow, and then you forget what one of the bumps is.
They did assure us that they have some sort of solution by the end of this month, if not completed, but contracted and paid for, and waiting on the company to get the work done.
Hopefully definitely before the snow.
Absolutely. If not, I told them they'd be cited if they wasn't there. We're kind of a holding pattern with trying to get them wide. So, fine.
Thanks.
Yeah, just one quick item. I've received some concerns about the parking around Town Square Park. I talked to the chief about it. We finally determined there are some restrictions there. Is that correct?
That's correct. They're legally parked, there's limited hours for the stop sign inside and there. The rest of the parking is open.
Because the concern that was brought to my attention was when you pull in on Main, going westbound, you have cars parked on both sides. It can be an issue sometimes, but you're saying they can't park within the 80 feet?
There's a sign there, I think it's 10 feet. It's like, it's posted so you can see when they're coming around the corner, and you have a good line of sight when they're lining up on West Main Street. So there's no parking overnight nearest to the intersection.
So that should take care of this issue.
And we've been keeping an eye to make sure we're following that. I just want to go over extra watching right now. We spoke to the individuals that was in violation.
Thank you.
Just for information, I asked Bart today for the next Economic Development Committee meeting if he could add the possibility of maybe doing an RFP for the old jail. It's no surprise I'm not a big fan of the old jail. It's an asset downtown. Once again, just like the old post office, we're not required to accept any bids if we don't want to, but see if there's any interest in the possibility of selling the old jail. So that's up for EDC to consider at the next meeting.
The only issue with that is if we do get rid of it, we have to refund.
I understand that. That would obviously have to be negotiated into the sale. Absolutely.
Okay. I did have one item. Anyone else, JT?
And just on that, if we sell that, what do we do with the parking though? Have we ever established other parking? Because wasn't that the state, we were going to use that for parking?
Yeah, and that's something that's going to be updated in an executive session under purchase or lease and planning. Anything else? I did have one item. I did receive 4 applications for the empty alderman seat. I do plan on bringing Ken Koch next council meeting forward as a replacement. Ken is a longtime resident, 13 years. He's lived in Ward 1. And what's that division? Greenbrier. Okay. He's served the city for 12 years on the park board, currently park board president. I think Ken would be a very good choice. Conservative, level-headed, up to speed on all the issues. I think Ken would be a real asset. So I'll bring him forward for a vote in 2 weeks. I've asked Ken in the next 2 weeks to reach out to each of you if you have any questions or concerns. Likewise, residents of Ward 1, if you want to reach out to Ken, give him a call. I know he's very accessible. And that is all I have. We will adjourn to executive session, and that will conclude this meeting.